All right. Good morning, everyone out there in the world. This is Andrew Pezzelli, joined by Christian Lawber, and this is the 360 Sports Show coming to you live via Facebook and circulated throughout the world. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us here this morning. The 360 Sports Show, we talk about anything and everything sports. Pretty much there's only one thing to talk about this week due to athletics coming to a complete halt with the coronavirus about. So NFL news and most importantly Tom Brady news is going to be on the docket. The biggest thing here this morning, as Christian seems to be coming in and out. Oh, Christian's back. Christian, are you there?
I am.
Aha, Christian is there. All right, so we've got Christian. The show, we usually, we tape in person and put it out as a podcast, but with everything going on, me and Christian are in remote locations, so he is being patched in to the show, and we're putting it out live to you through Facebook. You can hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. You can also email the show directly. That email address is right there on the screen, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. You can also hit us up through the comment section of Facebook Live if you want to send us your sports questions or just general questions. We'll take pretty much anything at this point right now. So, Christian, I want to start, obviously, with the biggest news of the week, and that is Tom Brady not just departing the New England Patriots, because we did a show. We knew that was coming. That happened on Tuesday, on St. Patrick's Day, but Tom Brady now joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Give your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a little bit this week, and
we keep losing Christian.
Can you hear me?
Oh, you're back. We may need to switch to maybe a landline here, Christian. Your phone's driving me nuts.
Oh.
All right, start again. Go ahead. Tom Brady to the Bucs.
I think, we touched on it a little bit this week. I'm going to stand pat where I was with it. I think both sides it's good for both sides. I think it was time for the Patriots for sure to move on and kind of reset here a little bit, which they seem to be doing quite a bit of. And I think it was time for Tom to either retire or go get his contract, go be in a situation where he wants to be happy. He'll give himself a chance just with the Bucs offense to win. I don't know how far they'll go.
No, we keep losing Christian. Christian's coming in and out, so let's see if we can maybe rectify this. Hey, Christian, you still there?
Yep.
All right. So this is all happening live. This is the beauty of a live show, folks. Technical difficulties. So, Christian, I'm gonna call you back on your normal cellular line, if you don't mind, because something hinky's happening with the internet for you. So we'll see how that sounds. All right.
All right.
All right. Calling you back in a second. And everybody gets to hear this just happen live. This is great. This is great radio right now. So everybody, while we dial Christian back in, you can send us your questions. You already had one question come on through. You can also leave your comments in the panel on the side on the Facebook page. And you can email the show, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com, and at 360 Sports Show on Instagram and Twitter right there on the screen. And you're going to all hear live as we dial Christian back into the show. This is like one of those shows where you're like prank calling people.
Hello?
Hey, Christian.
Hey.
Oh, there we go. Christian is back. Alrighty. And hopefully that should be sustained for at least a little while, I assume. If the phone lines go down, we know we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
So, all right. Without any further interruption, let's let you finish your Tom Brady thought on him going to the Buccaneers now.
Yeah. So good for both sides. I think it was good for Brady to kind of find his way with happiness, and he got his contract. Obviously, we'll talk on that a bit more, and he'll give himself a chance to kind of explore the outside world a bit from New England. And I think the biggest thing for him was his happiness and not dealing with Bill Belichick. So he's going to get an opportunity to do that. And we'll see if either or both of them regret this whole thing. But we'll find out one way or another in the end. But also the Patriots, resetting, I think it's a good move for them. It needed to happen eventually. And so I think it's a smart move to just reset here. Either go with Stidham or find a guy like Cam Newton to go cheap and, give yourself an opportunity to still compete in the AFC East. You won't dominate as much, and the schedule for the Pats is tough this year, but I think it's a good opportunity to reset, and in Bill we trust now from here on out.
Yeah,
you chose Bill for the long haul here, and Brady is no more.
We're truly going to put that word, that phrase to the test in Bill We Trust. So the details of Tom Brady's contract: 2 years, $50 million, fully guaranteed. You can see him on the screen right now signing that contract in what looks to be a kitchen. I'm not sure exactly where he is. Maybe the hotel where he had to do his physical, because teams couldn't meet with people in person. But 2 years, $50 million, fully guaranteed, no tags, so he can't be franchise tagged at the end of it, and he's got a no trade clause. So really, at the end of it, after 2 years, Tom could go elsewhere. Does he become, at 45 years old, does he opt to go somewhere else? Does he retire? Does he come back to New England? I jokingly called him Tom Kawhi Brady, because he could essentially, as long as he's still good and Giselle allows him to play, he could turn into like an assassin where he just goes and signs these 2-year deals somewhere and keeps playing. Christian, I kind of want to talk about, you're obviously at peace with the deal. A lot of people are not, New Englanders. And there's all sorts of, there's kind of two schools of thought on this. One side is that Belichick and Brady hated each other. They didn't want to work with each other anymore. And that's the reason for the split. The other side is that the Patriots love Tom Brady, but just didn't want to do this deal because of the money, the year commitment. Tom is 43 years old, or is going to be 43 years old. There's no guarantee of what his performance is going to be like and what he could be like down the road. Unprecedented territory. That's what the team had been calling it the past couple of years, because it is. Trying to give a guy a 3 or 4 year deal at this age is just, it's scary, especially with the guaranteed money. And the way I look at it, I just want to look at it from the numbers perspective, and we talked a whole lot about Patriots salary cap stuff leading up to this, and why I thought that Brady would be gone just based off the numbers and the business side and team running aspect. It's not that the Patriots and Bob Kraft don't have the money. If they could, they would give Brady $1 billion. They'd give him stock in the team. They'd give him all sorts of real estate to build TB12 centers all over New England. It's not that. It's the hard cap. It's the constraints you have to operate in. And yes, can you finagle that stuff? Sure. But not with a 43-year-old quarterback. You can't start spreading out money over 6-7 years when he wants fully guaranteed. And if Brady wants to get $25 million a year, that at some point that money has to come home to roost, and you're not going to have a situation where Tom retires and look, an $80 million cap hit to the team. That's just not going to happen. So you look at what they're owing him this year. It's already $13.5 million. You're paying Antonio Brown $4 million. If you kept adding on that money, right now they only have $3 million in cap space, and that is with pretty much nobody other than Brady. Nobody on the team. You let Brady go. You let a whole bunch of other free agents go. So it's just wasn't feasible to bring him back for the money, for the years, and talk about the flexibility to actually rebuild your team. You know how much cap space the Patriots have next year?
Not much. Well, actually, they have a ton.
After this year, in 2021, they have $113 million in cap space.
That'll get chewed up quick by special teamers, though. So.
But talk about, you want to reset, draft a young quarterback, let him and Stidham battle it out, see what you got in either of those guys, build your team with, that's why we've talked about how this draft class, why you didn't want to say mortgage this draft class for a Stephon Diggs or name big shiny offensive weapon, because there's no guarantee Brady was going to come back, and if you shelled out for that guy, what good does he do you on a rebuilding team? And now you don't have draft capital. This draft, and now without Brady, next year's draft are going to be the two most important for the Patriots' future, because they're in a position now where they're going to have to rely on young talent, and you can't just roll out of bed with Brady and Bill and say, oh, well, the AFC East is ours. We have to maybe hit on a free agent, hit on a draft pick or two, and maybe we can win a Super Bowl. You need to really fully rebuild the team, and the only way you're going to do that is through the draft. So I think they're set up well. I want to get your thought, early predictions for the Pats and the Bucs, because the two are basically going to be tied together. People are going to be looking at both, like you said, throughout the year. What is your expected record for the Patriots and where they'll finish, whether that's making the playoffs, not making the playoffs, yada, 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 and the same for the Bucs? I'll let you go first, Christian.
I mean, for the Patriots anyway, I'm expecting probably like a Matt Castle year. It just depends on what they want to do. Like if Stidham's ready and he's going to play, I think they'll be competing in the AFC East probably. They might not win it. They probably won't win it, but I think I just think the reset button has been hit. So it's just a matter of, can Stidham play, or are they going to go with someone like Newton if he's super cheap on a 1-year deal or something like that, prove it kind of year. But either way, I think it's looking more and more kind of like a Matt Castle year. So I'm expecting probably 10-6, 10-7, 11-7 with this new CBA. But I would say for the Bucs, they have a real chance to make some noise in the NFC, because you're going against Breeze and you're going against the Falcons, but the Bucs offense is legit. So if they can get, they just made a move for an offensive lineman as well. So if they get proper protection for Brady, they have the weapons, and it's just a question of, can their defense hold up? Which I'm not convinced. All the years the Pats had these explosive offenses, they really never won. It was always about the balanced teams that won for the Pats, and so Brady now makes this move, and he has all these offensive weapons, but can the Bucs defense be a difference maker for them to get to a title, to win a title? Those are the questions I have, but I think they'll make the playoffs easily. They'll be in contention probably for that first bye, just based on regular season offenses, what the NFL wants. So I would say they'll be up there. They'll definitely be in the conversation, and you're relying on a 43-year-old to stay healthy, which he has pretty much at all times, but you never know what can happen. So just getting Brady on that team with all those weapons, he's not going to be a liability throwing picks all over the field like Winston was. And I just think that team is infinitely better now with all those weapons, considering they had Winston, and they were pretty good on offense. He just threw too many picks and put them in really bad positions. But I think they'll be, record-wise, maybe 12 wins. They'll be up there, and they'll make some noise in the playoffs, I think. But I would say, if you had to choose between who's going to go further, I would pick the Bucs just based on, one's hitting a huge reset button, the other is kind of just amping up for this run here for 2 years with Brady.
Yeah. I'd say, like you said, for the Patriots, it's kind of like a Matt Castle-ish type of year. Obviously, Matt Castle took a 16-0 team and went 11-5 with it, and didn't make the playoffs. I think the Patriots, the way I look at this season now, is they're still going to compete, right? And when I mean compete is I don't see them. There could be a week where they run into I can't see them beating the Chiefs right this year. That type of team, a team that's an elite team that's just ready to go. The Super Bowl champs. But will they hang in with most everybody? I think so. I think Bill's still going to coach up the defense, and the offense will find ways to be in games. And do I think they're not the favorite in the AFC East anymore? That goes to Buffalo. And when I say compete, I mean that by week 14, they're not eliminated yet. That they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're going to be in contention to make the playoffs. Are they going to be a Super Bowl team? I don't think so. I think that'd be, talk about most unlikely things. If Bill somehow retooled the team with Jared Stidham and they made a run at the Super Bowl, that'd be ridiculous. Talk about cementing your legacy as the greatest coach ever. Maybe Bill will actually win Coach of the Year this year if he makes the playoffs with Jared Stidham. Maybe he'll finally win a Coach of the Year award again. It's kind of like the Greg Popovich effect. You could just give it to him every single year, but teams don't. I think they'll be in contention for a playoff spot. So that's somewhere around anywhere from 9 to 11 wins, somewhere in there. They'll win a game they shouldn't or aren't expected to. They'll probably drop games. I mean, I don't even know anymore. We don't know what the team's going to look like, so it's hard to say what games should they win. You usually pencil in, they'll beat Buffalo twice, they'll beat the Jets twice, they'll beat Miami twice. Who knows anymore? So they'll steal a game they shouldn't, aren't expected to win. Maybe something crazy against the Chiefs or the Texans or something like that. I mean, you never know. And so they'll be in contention for a playoff spot. That's my expectations. As far as the Bucs go, it really, I think, comes down to Brady's commitment. And it's tough right now with this whole, pandemic going on because we don't know. We won't know. We won't be able to get the early beat on it. If OTAs were happening next week, is Brady there? Is he doing the voluntary workouts with the team? Is he with them through all the passing camps and spring training camps and stuff? Some of the stuff that he's skipped out on with the Patriots the last couple of years, and I'll say gotten away with, except for this year when you kind of really needed him to be on the same page with some of the younger guys. But for the most part, aside from last year, there was so much familiarity with the offensive weapons, and you just knew what you could roll out of bed with those guys and that offense, and they're all on the same page, and everybody knows what's going on. He can't do that down in Tampa. I mean, he's got to learn. Obviously, they're going to tweak the offense for him, but he's going to have to learn a new offense. He's going to have to learn totally new players, and those players are going to need to learn him. The whole offense in New England, every single coach knows what Brady wants. So down to Dante Scarnecchia telling the offensive lineman, listen, Tom likes to step up a little bit this way into the pocket and then shift this way. So this is how we're going to scheme up our blocking. The running backs. These are the protections I like. This is the way I want you to go. Don't go cut a guy like this because then he can get back to his feet. Cut him like this because this is the way Tom throws the ball. This is the arm angle he's in. Those little details that were just already in place in New England. It's not like all of that just gets translated to Tampa Bay. All of that has to be worked in. He has to learn all these receivers, and they have to learn him. Hey, just because these guys are athletes doesn't mean, sure, Tom could just huck the ball up the field and, maybe he throws for 35 touchdowns, but maybe he also throws for 30 picks, if you're just hucking the ball up. So Tom's always been about precision. Can Chris Godwin run an out route at exactly 16 yards and break back to the ball in exactly the way that Brady likes it? I don't know. We'll have to see. They don't really have a possession receiver. So, they had a guy like that in Adam Humphries who left and went to Tennessee, who the Patriots tried to get, by the way. So it's going to be interesting to see, how it works out. End of the line predictions, I think obviously they figured it out, but I don't think they're going to be a juggernaut. I think they're going to struggle early and put it together later in the season, and I think they honestly go 11-5. But if they're rolling at the end of the year, obviously that's dangerous, and they're going to contend in the NFC playoffs. It'll be interesting to see what kind of defense they put around that team. What kind of free agents and guys come to them now because Brady's there. But as far as their season record goes, I think it's going to be lower than people think. I think they're going to struggle early. At least the offense will. But at the end of the day, I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. They probably don't win the division if they struggle early on because the Saints are the powerhouse in that division. And maybe you're looking at a Saints Bucs like divisional round playoff game, and I don't know. That's really a coin flip in my mind. I think at that point. So. I think the Patriots are going to do a little bit better than people expect, and I think the Buccaneers are going to struggle a little bit more early on. I don't know. What do you think about that, Christian?
Yeah, I think the Patriots are going to be middle. I don't know. They're going to be like middle team, I would say, in the AFC. I think they'll compete for a playoff spot and maybe get in. It really depends on when we can get the league year going, to be honest. I mean, that's going to depend a lot for both sides. You got to get these new guys, and also a lot of guys went out. So the Patriots got a lot of work to do on both sides of the ball as well. And, like you mentioned with the Bucs, I think on offense they're going to be fine early on, just based on the players that they have. They can implement something here early on. Now, for me, it's more dependent on, can they get together and do off-season workouts? Can they do this stuff on time, or is it going to be delayed even more, and then it's going to be a quick jump start right into the NFL season? So we'll see what happens with that. I think just having Brady, and I think he'll have a new motivation here. After 20 years, he was more about my family and this and that, but I think now being on a new team, I think he's going to find that fire again, that he always had in the beginning. First one there, last one to leave, all that. Maybe not as hardcore now that he's 43, but he'll be motivated here, as will Bill. So I think both teams will do just fine, and both of them are going to have to prove it here, because they could have come together, squashed all this BS, and said, let's just make it one more run here and see what we got. Come in, we'll work with these guys, we'll get you a little bit of help here with what we can under the cap, and we'll move on from here. Instead, Brady doesn't like Bill's attitude. We're going to split up. So now pressure's on both of them, and really it's those two guys, and we'll get to Kraft in a bit, but those two guys now have all this outside thing, like, oh, who's going to be better without the other? Was it Brady's success that carried Bill? Was it Bill's success that carried Brady? And we're going to find out now over the next couple of years. So it's going to be interesting to find. I think both teams will be, I think the Patriots will have a year here where they're kind of middling and competing, and then they'll really get going here once they open up the cap a bit, get some help in there, and see, kind of figure out the quarterback situation. Is Sidham the guy, or are they going to go with another guy? And we'll go from there. But I think Bill and Brady, those two, the spotlight's on now.
Yeah. Want to put up some of the other biggest moves around the NFL. Things. It wasn't just Tom Brady leaving that shook things up a bit. Let me try and find this image to put up for you guys. So there you go. The new NFL. Tom Brady to the Bucs. Todd Gurley to the Falcons. DeAndre Hopkins is on the Cardinals. Stephon Diggs traded to the Bills. Phillip Rivers signs a 1-year deal with the Colts. And Teddy Bridgewater is the new quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. I'd say my biggest takes out of that, I don't know what Houston is doing. And Todd Gurley being cut and then signing with the Falcons just further emphasizes my point that you should not ever give those people, the franchise running back, quote unquote, it is just further just continuing to go extinct in the NFL. Is it great to have guys like Gurley and Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott? Yes. On rookie deals, when you draft them, they're great to have. Maybe you give them, a or year extension if they get to the end there, if you really have a lot of confidence. But signing these guys to 4 or 5 year extensions, it never works out. They break down at the end, and it's just never worth it. And in the case of Gurley, he broke down amidst having his best season. And they didn't even have him. Maybe if he's healthy, they win a Super Bowl. Or if you had a better option than C.J. Anderson, who was basically just a bowling ball at that point at running back. Maybe they don't only put up 3 points in the Super Bowl. The Patriots have done it for 20 years. They've never had. They had Corey Dillon, but they got him on the cheap, and they got him at the end of his career, and they rode him to a Super Bowl in 2004. That's how the Patriots have done it. They have never given big money to a running back. The most money they've given a running back, to my knowledge, is James White, and he's not a bruising between the tackles, running power offense, taking a complete beating running back. They usually have 3 decent running backs on the roster at one time, and it's a stable of backs, and that approach has helped them be successful for 20 years. And I just look at these teams like the Cowboys. Yeah, you wanted to lock up Ezekiel Elliott, but it's kind of like that baseball thing where you're paying for it's the cost of doing business, and you pay these guys the big money to get maybe 1 or 2 years more out of them. But I don't know if that's really worth it when you can just draft a guy. And look at a guy like Mostert in San Francisco. These guys who were undrafted and kicking around on practice squads, and these guys become elite playmakers. I think running backs you can just pick up off the street, and there's no reason to commit 20% of your cap to some of these guys.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems. It's not surprising because he is really broken down, and I think he has like arthritis in his knee or something like that is what the main issue is. But I think just overall, these running backs, let's just say from a league standpoint, the average player in the NFL is like 3 years or something like that. And especially running backs, like, not for nothing, but look what happened to the Titans. They had this great running back, but they only got so far. Running backs don't carry you in the NFL. So giving them huge extensions it's never worth it. You could name a guy, you could fill him into a spot. I take a guy like Christian McCaffrey over Todd Gurley because he's a tough guy, and he catches a lot, but he also can run. So, and a guy like that, he's going to make his money, but it's not like you're giving these guys crazy extensions. I go more O-line wide receiver than I would running back. You can, get a guy in there, undrafted or something, and he can you just look at the Super Bowl between the 49ers. Like, it's just, you just don't need that guy that's making $800 million to be your running back. It's just not that. The league just doesn't work like that. It's more about the other guys around and the quarterback than it is the running back. So giving these guys crazy contracts come back to bite you, and it did for the Rams. So it's just not surprising. These guys, they get paid, and some are very good, like Barkley and these guys, but you're not going to win if your best player is your running back. It just never worked that way. So the other move that I did like for the Panthers, the Teddy Bridgewater move, big fan of that for Carolina. Now, they did have Kuechly retire, which is kind of unfortunate, but I think that team is going to be they're going to compete a little bit. Bridgewater is a serviceable guy, and I think last year they struggled a bit because they had a rookie in there, and obviously Newton was hurt. So Bridgewater's a good serviceable quarterback, and it's going to be interesting to see what he can do now that he pretty much knows he's locked in a starting job somewhere as opposed to a backup after leaving Minnesota and going to New Orleans. But
I think it's great I'm so happy for Bridgewater, because a guy who was ascending, and then just to have that catastrophic injury, and then to be able to come back, just to be in the league, and then to get a starting job somewhere, I think that's I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, and I think he's a relatively good quarterback. He went undefeated with the Saints. Granted, their team is very good, but still, he's been pretty good throughout. And it's going to be interesting for that team. I like the Panthers last year, just watching them. I mean, McCaffrey's excellent, and watching the young quarterback there last year, but Bridgewater in there is going to be interesting for them. And the other one with Diggs going to Buffalo, like, good for Buffalo, but also, like, you still don't have the quarterback. Like, the guy can't throw, so I don't know what they're going to do there. We'll see if he, makes a big jump or something, but Diggs is a really good player. He's going to help, but I just don't, like, you need the quarterback in order to get this guy the ball. And I want to say Josh Allen was, like, the worst deep passer in the league this year, so it's going to be an interesting dynamic there. I think they're definitely better, but how much better without the quarterback still?
Well, that's the thing. Like, Josh Allen, like, kind of came on late in the year, but how much better? I feel like he's at a point in his development where Stephon Diggs is not an answer, right? He's a weapon, but he's a guy that you saw how he wanted the ball more. He wanted them to throw deep more to him in Minnesota. Now, what happens in Buffalo when you got a young quarterback who's starting to come on, and if you have a diva receiver who's, like, demanding the ball, or, hey, I'm open, throw it to me, throw up, throw over the top, go deep to me. And is Josh Allen going to start thinking more about just trying to get Diggs the ball instead of making the right play, and then he hucks it up? And we saw what happens when he just hucks it up last year. He gets picked off. So, I don't know how much that's going to help versus hurt. Does the talent get outweighed by the diva-ness, I guess, of Diggs? That remains to be seen. I'm kind of with you. I don't know if that's really going to help the Bills. It could hurt them. If you've got a guy like that chewing out your quarterback on the sidelines, that could hurt more than help. So, we'll see what happens with Buffalo. I think it's interesting now. You've got guys like Cam Newton and Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston all on the street. Do you think any of them even have jobs next year? I mean, Cam Newton's going to eventually, he's going to try and get traded. But I don't know, all the reports I've seen is that they're having a difficult time being able to trade him because teams probably just don't want him. So they may have to cut him, in which case he'd be on the street. But guys like Dalton, who also would need to be traded, and Winston, who could be cut or traded, where do you see these guys landing, if anywhere? If they get cut, do they wind up anywhere? Do you see all those guys on the street?
Man, that's interesting. I honestly have no idea. I think L.A. Chargers, I think they may have a need for one of those guys. They're saying they're going to go with Tyrod Taylor, which I'm not a big fan of Tyrod Taylor, but
serviceable.
So, yeah, he's all right. I don't know if one of those guys is better. Like, would you take a chance on Newton, or maybe trade for Dalton if you're LA? I don't know. Jameis Winston might be either out of a job or a backup somewhere. I'm not sure where he's going to go. I think he's a relatively good player if you can limit his mistakes, but those mistakes just outweigh the positives in so many ways. You can't throw 30 touchdowns, 30 picks and expect to get paid this huge number. So he might be sitting on the bench for a year or two. I think he's definitely a backup, and I think he can start in the league, but he's got to get with maybe a coach or someone to get in his head and limit his mistakes, because he's a relatively good quarterback when he's on, but those mistakes just come through too much to make it not as appetizing as you'd like for a young guy like that. So he's got all the tangible things. He's got the big arm, and he's a big guy, and he can run, he can move a little, but man, those mistakes that he makes, not even in big spots, but just, you give the game away here with some of these picks. So he's an interesting one. I think he'll be in the league somewhere, but maybe not as a starter. But man, there's not a lot of openings now. The Patriots are one that have been linked to Newton. I know they're number one for him in the betting world in Vegas, but I don't know if that works. I mean, if Newton's going to come here on a really low money deal and kind of a prove it year like many guys do, then I'm interested. I think Newton's he's a fun guy to watch when he's healthy, but how long can he stay healthy is the question for me. So really, Newton, I have no idea. A lot of these guys have not been linked to anybody really. And a lot of teams have already said they're standing pat with, Tyrod Taylor or this guy, that guy. You look at a team like the Raiders, but they just signed Mariota, so they're good over there with Carr and Mariota. So
yeah, and my mistake, Jameis Winston is actually he's a free agent, so he's UFA.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a contract at all, so he's just on the street. Some rumors about maybe the Steelers for him, possibly. Cam Newton, his deal, he's owed $21 million. If they can't trade him, that's the thing. Who's going to want to take on that contract? Now, obviously, they could just tear it up as soon as they get him, but I think nobody wants to potentially take on that money, and so the Panthers likely are just going to have to cut him, in which case they'd owe him $2 million. So odds are he gets cut. I'm trying to pull up the details on Andy Dalton as well.
If you're a team, you're not going to pay out the nose for draft picks or something for Cam Newton when he's just going to get cut. So most likely that's the route.
Same with Dalton. Dalton is owed $17 million. Though I think he signed. Did they give him the franchise tag? I have to check this because it says he's owed $17 million. Let me check on this Andy Dalton contract.
That seems about right, to be honest. He's probably a 15 mil, 17 mil guy, but it's another interesting one. Dalton and he's got a job.
It says I don't think so. And I think this is just. Yeah, I think they can just straight up cut him for nothing if they wanted. Yeah, this is just the end of his deal, so they don't owe him any money. He could get cut. They'll probably hang on to him through the draft. They'll wait to actually get Joe Burrow and then trade Dalton. In all likelihood.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah.
As far as Cam Newton, I said previously, I would love Cam Newton on the Patriots if he gets cut and you could get him super, super cheap. But honestly, even now, looking at the cap situation, $3 million, not that the Patriots, I think, are going to be active. In years past, you want some flexibility to be able to, make trades at the trade deadline to add guys if you need somebody. So you really don't need that now because you're not trying to win a Super Bowl, I guess, this year. Now you could butt yourself right up against the cap, but even still, only $3 million. If Cam Newton gets cut, like you said, somewhere like LA could just offer him a whole lot of money. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see, does a guy like that say, you know what, I'll go play for Bill Belichick. He could help, reclaim my career, and I'll go for, a 2-year deal with a team option on the second year or a player option and something like that. I think it's interesting. I'm all for going with the young guys, but I'd take the flyer on Newton just because of the upside of his ability if he's healthy. But again, on just super, super cheap dollars, and I don't know if he's going to want to go for that.
He might have no other choice, to be honest. So we'll see. I would be intrigued if I was Newton for a guy like Belichick. I can go in there, work with him. The offense will be okay, and that can kind of revitalize me, not only for outside teams, but just for myself, make me believe I can stay healthy and play.
Yeah, and a guy like Josh McDaniels too, having a quarterback like that to play with.
Yeah.
Maybe he has an offensive coordinator who's not going to run him into a brick wall every single play and get him hurt.
Right.
I think because he is a gifted passer too. He can be inaccurate at times, but who knows? A lot of that has to do with the offense he was put in. So he's a guy I'd tune in to see. I would be excited. That would excite the fan base. kind of want to transition just maybe to a broader topic, and we kind of talked about this, the future of sports right now with everything. Obviously, for the foreseeable future, there's no games. The NFL hasn't said anything yet about pushing back its schedule. Because they don't have to. I mean, everybody's kind of in a wait and see. The NBA and NHL said they might not start again until June, and even then, I imagine by then it's not going to go back to normal. You're not going to have crowds of people in arenas. Maybe you have games with players, and there's no crowd. It's who can predict, what things are going to look like in months from now, as opposed to, just 2 weeks from now. We don't even know what things are going to look like. I can't really envision a scenario though where the NFL is, because they're the one league that hasn't really been derailed yet. I kind of can't imagine them starting on schedule. Do you?
I mean, just the way this thing is going, probably not. I don't see there's that being a possibility. I mean, there's a possibility right now, but we'll see here in a few weeks what kind of headway we make with this whole virus situation, because if not, if this thing, is over 2-3 months and into August and July even, there's just no way you can do it. So, And that's even saying, the other sports, what are they going to do? Are they going to even come back? Because that's going to be super close to the opening day of next year. So it's really interesting. At least in our lifetime, we've never seen anything like this. And even before that, I'm not sure there's anything like even close to this. I mean, there's been a few lockout scenarios where you can do like shorter seasons. And the only positive in terms of sports is baseball. It'll shorten that god awful season, but there's just no way that the NFL will start on time if this thing drags out for a few months here. So it'll be interesting to see. Do they go cut down preseason or something like that? But for me, it's just, you don't need to do anything now. You just have to kind of wait it out and see what kind of headway we make on remedying this situation, and then go from there. You can make the call in June if nothing's changed, and they'll just wait and see. The other sports are suspended, not canceled, so at least professional. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do as well. But there's got to be some type of movement on this whole virus thing within the next, 2-3 weeks here. It's going to be pretty important for these seasons, because who knows what happens beyond that. Yeah,
and I'd say really, like we talked about, the NFL has turned into kind of a 365-day season, because there's so much work that all these teams do in the off season with passing camps and team workouts and mandatory mini camps and all this sort of stuff. I think you can get by without that, and guys can be working out on their individually. I'd say really when things will start to, the NFL season starts in July when teams start getting ready for training camp, and that's really the point, and that's a long way away, but we don't know what things are going to look like by then. Most things could say return to normal, but they may say like, hey, you can't have more than 50 people in a room together in a space. Well, I can't imagine they're going to let teams have practices and be in locker rooms and stuff, with 100-something plus guys. So
yeah, no way.
That's they're not gonna have the general population not be able to even like gather in a little group on a sidewalk and tell NFL players, because those guys will say, listen, no, we ain't showing up.
I mean, what will probably happen is they'll probably slowly get, like, you got to start slow. Like, let's pack people into a movie theater and see what happens. Let's get like 25, maybe even less than that, into a movie theater, see what happens, and then move from there. But sporting events, there's just no way. There's like 20,000 people in there. You can't just go, okay, well, there, one day,
everybody flood back in.
Yeah, everybody go in, have a free for all. No, it's just you can't do it. So it's going to be weird. They might have to play games with no fans, 50 fans, 5,000 fans, whatever they decide to do.
Everybody stay a row apart in the NFL stadium.
Yeah, every 4 seats, we can have someone in the building.
Yeah, and I think it's just going to be. I think right now the NFL season isn't affected, but I think it's the season that could be most affected because everybody else, baseball, these guys can just show up and play. I mean, they're in shape. You can work on your swing, you can work on fielding, completely socially distant from people. The NHL and NBA seasons, they were right in the meat of it. These guys, their teams have their chemistry. They're together. I think the NFL being in the offseason right now hasn't been affected yet, but if things get pushed and delayed, they could be the league that is most affected, at least on the field, once things get back to normal. Because teams haven't had a chance they might not have a chance to get together to work on things.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that this actually helped teams in the NBA or something. This is like load management on steroids. They're going to get a lot of time off and get healthy here. So it could be, partly, I mean, depends on how long the break is. I mean, it definitely there could be some rust, but the NFL, it'll be interesting because just how much we'll see how long this thing goes, because if it goes into the off-season workouts and these type of things, then yeah, I mean, there's just no way you're going to be able to get on the same page, especially guys going to different teams. It's going to be tougher. So they could definitely be affected, and like you said, the most affected, depending on how long this thing goes. They got to get started here, new teammates, new systems, everything like that. And you can just see, it's not confirmed, but a guy like Brady didn't go to the offseason and go to this, and he couldn't get on the same page with the young guys. So it definitely matters in that league, and it'll be interesting to see how long they make the call. Do you make the call in a few weeks when nothing has changed and it's still rapidly spreading throughout the country and this, that, and the other?
The NFL will literally wait until the day before training camp's supposed to open and be like, okay, I guess we should cancel.
Yeah, they probably will. Yeah, knowing the NFL, probably. But I have a feeling that's going to affect them in some way or another. So we just, I mean, really, what can you do? You just have to wait and see at this point. Yeah. There's not much anybody can do. So
we have a couple of questions. So if you are listening to this live or listening to this as a podcast, you can send us questions throughout the week to either our social media accounts, which are right there on the screen at 360 Sports Show on Instagram and Twitter. You can email the show throughout the week, and we'll get to your questions throughout the show. The 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. You can send us questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, anything at all through there. The focus of the show, the reason it's the 360 Sports Show, is because we kind of give full circle coverage to everything sports related. Obviously, right now, we pretty much have only two things to talk about, which is the NFL and coronavirus. So not too much to talk about, but still enough to talk about. And at times like these, we do need a little bit of entertainment. And so, we're going to try and provide as much entertainment as we can. So that's why we'll encourage any and all questions. We're going to have a little bit of a segment here at the end talking about some social distancing stuff and little weekly updates throughout this, some of us in self-imposed quarantines and things like that, and trying to socially distance ourselves. And, we can have some fun talking about those things and our solutions, and kind of just documenting this whole scenario along the way. So send us your questions and comments and thoughts and stuff to the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com, and we'll get to them. Jake, regular contributor to the show, has a six-parter for us. So this is going to carry us a long way. Also, we love this is the perfect time for Ryan to hop back in with some would you rathers. He had some awesome would you rathers at the beginning of the show early on in February. If you want to give us like scenarios, games, ask us for predictions, all that sort of stuff, that is the kind of content that drives the show. We had somebody ask us our top 5 jerseys of all time. That was some great content. All that sort of stuff right now, that's the fun stuff that we could use, and that gets everybody entertained. So this from Jake, and we'll go piece by piece. Some of this we already talked about, but number 1, when did the schism first occur between Bill and Brady? I'll answer quickly. When they traded Garoppolo, didn't play Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl, and then Brady couldn't get a long-term deal. The minute they made him have to sign an incentive deal for the 2018-2019 season, that's when I think Brady kind of saw the writing on the wall that they're not going to want to go long term. It's going to have to be year to year, and Bill, and whether or not that rubbed him the wrong way, I think if I was Brady, I would have taken year to year because I would have wanted to stay and just play out this legendary career with one team. That's me, but I think that's the point where Brady really saw like, wow, there's no guy behind me, and they still want to go year to year with me. I guess I would have expected that if I was in his position, because guess what? I'm 40-something years old. I think he wanted more quote-unquote respect, but I'd say that's when it really started, and that's the year when you heard all the things about, Guerrero not being allowed in the locker room and blah, 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 blah. That's when it started. Whether or not that was the thing that led to this happening in the end, don't know. It was definitely part of it. That's where it started for me.
I think it started even before that. I think it was when they drafted Garoppolo. Bill came out and said, we took Jimmy. We liked the player. We did some work with him. We all know Tom's
age and contract
situation. And from then on out, I think Brady was like, the two of them are, some ego stuff gets in the way. These two are the greatest of all time. They've been together for, however long, 15, 16, 17, 20 years now. It's just, at some point you're going to butt heads, and I think Brady wanted to feel appreciated, and unfortunately for the two of them in the end, it couldn't work out because of that, because Bill was kind of mean, and
he's your coach.
Yeah. The minute you start treating players, I know Brady, what he's done for the organization and everything, but I don't think you can take a guy like that and start treating him like royalty, and then the rest of the team just sits there and is like, well,
you lose credibility. You lose credibility.
Yeah,
it happens in the NBA because the players are above the coaches in that league. In the NFL, it's the greatest team sport. It's a balance between the players, the coaches, the ownership. It all has to kind of work in concert. And if you put one player and treat them not just differently, but exceedingly differently than another player, you start to you start to fracture things. You lose your credibility, and the culture you built, that Tom himself built. He was willing to be, the guy leading the no one's bigger than the team charge early in his career. And what kind of appreciation are you looking for? You want Bill to not criticize you, or, in front of the team. I don't know. I mean, that's like, at that point, at 20 years in, you should realize, listen, he's not just busting my chops because he's mean. He's going to keep doing it because this is what helps make the team better. Privately, he can ream you out in a film session, and then when you have your one-on-one meeting, hey, listen, I know you're the greatest quarterback of all time, but I'm doing this because it sets the example that, wow, even Tommy gets chewed out. I'm gonna pay attention. Like, that's part of the recipe there. You want Bill to openly speak about how awesome you are and love you and blah blah blah. He did it in his statement. I'm sure Brady read that statement. We talked about this on Tuesday and went like, damn, there's the appreciation I wanted. But that's not going to come while you're a current player. It's going to come when you leave, when we can look back and reflect and talk about everything. It can come privately between those two. You know it's there. You see when they win the Super Bowl and they're hugging each other. I love you, blah, all this stuff. And even when they were doing that top 100 stuff, this offseason, you could kind of see it. So I think expecting it in the locker room from your own coach, from your boss, it's just, it's kind of unrealistic, and it's just not the way Bill's ever operated. So, I guess if you really want that, go somewhere else. But this next question from Jake. Do you believe that Bill Belichick systematically sabotaged the offense for Tom in an attempt to force him out of New England so he can rebuild, or possibly out of spite for Kraft trading Jimmy G away? No, categorically no, and here's why. Bill didn't sabotage the offense. Rob Gronkowski decided to retire last year in the middle of free agency when the Patriots were kind of expecting it, but Gronk didn't decide. He didn't decide until after free agency. So they lost their opportunity to really they wanted to get Jared Cook, who went to the Saints, but they couldn't guarantee how much money they could give him because they didn't know if Gronk was coming back or not. So Cook said, I'm not going to wait around. I'm going to sign somewhere else. That happened to a lot of free agents last year that the Patriots were interested in. So Gronk retiring late really hurt their chances of adding pieces. Hey, they still went out and signed Antonio Brown, who blew up himself. They traded for Mohamed Sanu, who totally wrecked his ankle and was a shell for the remainder of the season. Bill tried everything to try and add to the team. So, did he sabotage the team? No. I think it's just the hand they were dealt because of cap constraints. They drafted a receiver. They drafted a running back and receiver in the first round the last 2 years. Bill did not sabotage the offense. I think some of the guys that they added to the team sabotaged themselves. So I don't think Bill tried to ruin the offense so that Brady would get pissed off and leave. I don't see that at all.
No, because Brady was pissed off before that. And also, like you mentioned, even back in the offseason of this past year, he added about 4 linemen that all retired in the offseason before they even got going. Gronkowski handcuffed them, and then they got Sanu, who was supposedly Brady's guy, for a second-round pick, who unfortunately got hurt on a punt return. But, I just, this notion, and not at Jake, but just, I've heard this many times that, this is the conspiracy that Bill wanted to ruin the offense so Brady would leave. And no, because he was pissed off before that, and he probably knew he was leaving. Bill, he brought in the biggest a-hole in the league to satisfy his quarterback.
It only cut the guy because the owner wanted him to. Bill and Brady both wanted to keep Antonio Brown amidst the just insanity that was ensuing.
Yeah, so it's just like, no, Bill did not do that. I mean, it would be nice if the quarterback would get on the same page with the young guys, it's just like the frustration for him when he's slamming his helmet, that doesn't show young guys like, I can't wait to get back on the field. Let's go in the next drive. It's just like the whole attitude was just not good this year. And no, Bill did not do anything to sabotage the whole deal. He tried many times. Gronkowski 1, offensive linemen 2, retiring, receivers getting hurt and shooting themselves in the foot. I don't buy that conspiracy this time. Nope. I think Bill is always one to put his team in the best position he can to win. He tried, and unfortunately it just didn't work out. Sometimes, you can't win every year. That's just how it is.
How does this affect Tom's legacy in New England? I've already seen people burning Brady jerseys. If you're a person who's burning a Brady jersey, you're just looking for attention and you're a troll. You're not a fan. If you're burning a Tom Brady jersey, that is, he didn't ask to be traded. He didn't ask to be cut. He never publicly said anything bad or negative about the team, about his teammates. Tom Brady has done nothing at all wrong, aside from maybe hurting your feelings because he went and joined another team. Well, he's an adult, he's a free agent, he can do what he wants, and you don't know him personally, so there's no reason for you to be burning his jersey. You're just looking for attention. Does it affect his legacy in New England? No. I think where it could affect his legacy is if, say, he goes to Tampa and he struggles because and there'll always be the out of, it was amid the coronavirus outbreak and you can't judge, but if he just doesn't look on the same page with guys, if he looks like he did this past year with Tampa Bay, where he's not on the same page with guys, he's throwing balls in the dirt, he's throwing balls away, these guys don't look like they're just syncing together because whether it's his diminishing play, not being on the same page because they couldn't work out, or those guys just can't run the type of precision offense that he wants, that's going to affect his legacy because he's going to be looked at more as there'll be the people he's the greatest quarterback of all time. The people who deny that, who want to say, well, he's a system quarterback, it's like, what quarterback wasn't in a system? Like, Joe Montana was in a West Coast offense. Like, he was in Bill Walsh's system. Like, that's totally, it's a ridiculous statement to make. You know, everybody has their system. You know, who's not a system quarterback? Patrick Mahomes is a system quarterback. He's in Andy Reid's system. So I hate that phrase. But the haters will use that as an example of why Brady needed Bill more. That'll embolden, that'll give more credence to it was Bill, not Brady. If he goes to Tampa Bay and, you know, is just throwing balls away and his numbers aren't good, and if it looks bad, so that's where I think it could affect his legacy.
Yeah, I mean, not much is going to affect his legacy in, you know, overall, but in the next couple of years, you could see it affect, you know, the tail end at least. I mean, if either way, they're the two of them, Brady and Belichick, are competing for something here, whether that's more ego based or not. Remains to be seen. I think both of them, you know, now are going to have a little extra motivation, especially with all these guys calling out Bill and saying that he needs Brady to win. I mean, that in itself is going to be enough for the coach to get motivated here to turn this thing around pretty quick. And same thing with Brady. You know, he's moved on. If he wins again, I mean, then, you know, it just cements it more. I don't think he's going to, you know, after this 2-year stint, I don't think you're gonna come back and say, oh well, he's not the greatest of all time because he went to Tampa Bay and he wasn't as good. It's just going to be in the short term here that you'll see it affected on one end or the other.
If Tom wins a Super Bowl without Bill, or vice versa, how does that impact each's legacies? Tough. I mean, it'd be one thing if you felt the whole time that, hey, Brady is really better than Bill, and this just cements it. Or if you felt like Bill is so much better than Brady, and this cements it. They're both the greatest of all time at what they do. So if they can be without each other and still win, what does that really change? Optically, it'll look better for that person. It'll, you know, it's obviously Tom is more set up right now, we think, to go and win a Super Bowl in Tampa, rather than Bill being able to win one next year with the Patriots. So it's so hard to win a Super Bowl. Now, when you had those two guys together, they made it look easy to just get there almost every single year, or be in an AFC championship every single year. You know, now the road is going to be tougher because they don't have each other. So I don't know. I mean, I think odds are neither one wins a Super Bowl again. You know, I'd say that the better question is who do we think will get there? You know, who will win a Super Bowl next, Brady or Bill? I'd put my money on Bill before Brady.
Well, yeah, just based on years. I mean, Bill's going to be around a lot longer. You know, he wants to catch Shula, so that's at least, I don't know, 5 years maybe now. So he's going to be, well, what we think Brady's going to retire at 45. But Bill is, people need to understand, at least Pats fans, this is not a thing that's going to work out in 1 year. Bill is going to have now 2-3 years here to really turn the ship and get it back in the right direction. In terms of quarterback and people around him. So he's going to pick the next guy, which I prefer him to do. And he's going to have more years to turn it around than Brady will, you know, to win a Super Bowl. Eventually here, Tom is not going to be the player he was 7 years ago. It's just not going to happen. You know, Father Time, I know he's got his TB12 method, but eventually it's going to turn. So it's just a matter of my money's on Bill, just based on, number one, he's going to have a longer tenure here at the end of his career. He wants to catch Shula. That in itself is enough motivation. And now he wants to do without Brady, and he wants to, you know, kind of get going on his own with a new guy. So there's a bunch of, you know, different factors here for both sides. But I think you ask me now in the next 2 years, sure, I think Tom has a better chance to get there. But over the longer haul, I would go with Bill, just because he's going to have longer years. He's done it. You know, he can build a team. He can coach them up. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do without Brady.
Yeah. I think if as terms of who it will impact most, I don't think it won't change anything about either of their standing. I think it will give Brady just a little bit more of a tick because he could show that he didn't need Bill. We all assume that you could give Belichick most above average quarterbacks and he could win a Super Bowl. Like people have already assumed that if he's the greatest coach of all time, he doesn't need a Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl. To have a dynasty, yes, you need a Tom Brady. I think that's why they've had the success they have had, is because they're both the greatest of all time. That won't change if they each win a Super Bowl. I think it maybe gives Brady just a little bit more of an edge because like that's something Peyton Manning was able to do. People still say Manning is better than Brady because he was able to go somewhere else and win, which is just completely asinine. But it would be that one little maybe extra tick notch in the belt for Brady. Number 5. Moving along here, questions from Jake. That's the headline for the show. How about that load management? Once Corona passes, we will see the most rejuvenated and intense playoffs for basketball and hockey that we've seen in a long time. I disagree. I think you're going to see maybe some of the worst and sloppiest playoffs, at least in the first rounds of both the NHL and NBA. Because say they just decide to go right to playoffs, especially so, even if they give like a 10-game leeway into the playoffs for both seasons whenever they start up again, we're all hopeful that they don't cancel the seasons, that they do play out these seasons. I think at least for the first rounds, so sloppy because these guys can't play together. And it doesn't matter how much it doesn't matter if you've been playing basketball with a guy for the whole year or 5 seasons. If you're not with them for 6 months and then you try to get back out on a court together, if you haven't been playing basketball that whole time in a group, which is you shouldn't be doing right now, it's just going to be ugly. It's going to be sloppy. So, will guys by the end have more in the tank when you get to like a cup final or the NBA finals? Sure. Initially, though, I think it doesn't matter how rejuvenated or good these guys feel. It's going to be ugly looking. Yeah,
I mean, I'll take the other side of it. I think you look at a team like the Celtics, they're so banged up. I think they're going to come back and, especially if you jump right in the playoffs, yes, you're going to see some rust. But if you're going to give, maybe a week or 2 of games just to finish out, maybe an 8-game stretch here to finish out a season and see what happens, I think that could take over the rust, those final few games that they decide to play. You get back practicing a little bit. I think a team like the Celtics will benefit supremely from that because of the injury situation. So if they jump right into the playoffs, of course, there will be some of that. But if they give them a little time to practice and play a few games before just jumping into the playoffs, I think it's hugely important for a team like the Celtics, a team like the Clippers. All these teams get healthy, and I think it could be a really, really good end to a season. Obviously, we kind of missed a whole chunk here, and if it comes back, I think teams will be healthy and rested. It's just a matter of getting through those first few weeks, and then really ramping up into the playoffs.
I can see that. Interesting possibilities with the load management. Looking at it from a teams who are injured and coming back standpoint. If the playoffs get pushed back to, say, July and August, the possibility that the Nets could have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving both healthy again. And they're a 7 seed right now, but that's a whole different looking team if both of those guys are healthy. And if you were the Nets, would you even want to risk that?
No.
Or would you want to wait till next year, whatever that looks like? Would you want to chance those guys playing if they're ready to go?
No, definitely not. I would say just wait at that point. You're already at the tail end. What if KD's not quite ready, but he is, and you want to make that call because we can make some noise as a 7 seed, and then he goes out there and gets injured for the next 2 years. So I think if you're the Nets or a team like that, you just want to stand pat. Wait till next year. Both those guys will be back, and you can have a full season going into the playoffs with them. I don't think you want to ruin anything or risk anything here with either of those guys for the next, 2 weeks as opposed to the next 2 years. So I think from that standpoint, you just stand pat and you wait till next year.
Yeah. Last part here from Jake. Hopefully Corona shortens the baseball season because, goddamn, the season is too long. I think, let me get an amen. I think baseball, we talk about the NFL, could potentially be the team the league that's most affected by this pandemic. I think baseball also could be affected in the sense, maybe not from being able to play their season, but more people might realize that, wow, we really don't need to watch baseball, or how much baseball kind of already has become the fourth sport behind the NFL, and then the NBA is right there with the NHL, and baseball kind of is really falling behind, and it's an opportunity for them to maybe make some changes, but the NBA may just embrace, why not start in Christmas? They've already kind of talked about that. That way they're not competing as much with the NFL by starting in October. They start at Christmas. You go from Christmas up until June, and then you have your playoffs throughout the summer. And the NHL would kind of stick to its schedule, where it's happening kind of concurrently with the NFL season. But for the most part, it's happening after the NFL season. And baseball then kind of gets squeezed out. Would you rather watch the NBA Finals or a regular season baseball game? Not a chance, yeah. Right?
Not even close.
So
I think you just shorten the baseball season to 50 games, and then make it go from April to June.
Wait, did you say to 50 games?
Oh yeah, 50 games. Yeah.
So you don't even play everybody twice. No, you can't do 50 games.
Yeah, let's just squash the whole thing.
You'd have to just baseball canceled indefinitely. You'd have to, if you wanted to, hey, I'm down 50 games. You just have to get rid of interleague play. That's
how about 120 though? Let's just shorten the whole thing.
Oh, I'm down. I'm gonna have to get it down to 80 something. Have it 88 games, something like that.
Yeah, they would never do that, I guess. But
well, they never do 50 either, Christian.
Oh yeah, no, I know. That was just a joke. But I would say, the NBA thing is interesting. I honestly wouldn't mind it, because for me personally, at least, selfishly, I'm man, there's this black hole in the summer of no sports, because baseball is just so bad, and I can't watch it because it's too boring. If you throw the NBA on in the summer, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think baseball's going to get squeezed out. I think people already. Oh, did you see? I guess we have Red Sox news we could impart. We said there was nothing else to talk about. Chris Sale is going to have Tommy John surgery after all. Shocker! News dump in the midst of a pandemic, typical Red Sox style. Let's just sneak this in here. Chris Sale is going to have Tommy John surgery. So he is done for the year. No surprise. I guess why not? It looks like the season's not going to happen anyways for baseball. He's not on time, so why not just get it over with?
Yeah.
But if and when the baseball season starts, the Red Sox are going to be even worse than we figured they'd be.
Yep. You lost your best pitcher to Tommy John. You traded your superstar player away, and now the season might be cut in games. So the only positive is that there could be less games. That's really the only positive. Because other than that, the Red Sox are not going to make much noise when competing against the Yankees. So baseball's over, as far as I'm concerned, until October. And maybe even then, we don't even know. Baseball in October is at least doable, and it's more exciting. Now, granted, we didn't know the Astros, well, in quotations, we didn't know that they were cheating. But it gets exciting towards the CS and the World Series, but even then, not about it. I don't know. I just can't sit down and watch a game every night for 4 hours. I just can't do it. So
yeah, I can't Yeah, no baseball for me. I was excited to see early on like how teams handled the Astros, like that first week or two of like, are these guys just getting drilled every single at bat? But then after that, I probably wouldn't have really cared that much until, sometime around late August, early September, and it would have been just casual at that. Thank you to Jake for the litany of questions. Some good conversation. Keep the questions coming. If you want to have your questions right on the show, you can email the show, the360sportshow@gmail.com. Email us anytime, and then when we do the show, we can roll through your questions. Like this one from Mark came in before Tom signed with Tampa Bay. He was hoping for Brady to go back to San Francisco. He says that Garoppolo is a bust and San Francisco is Super Bowl ready. A QB maybe wins them a Super Bowl. Obviously, they're sticking with Garoppolo. But in terms of the Patriots, he says that New England needs to get another Tom. Look for Bill to get a late round quarterback, maybe the 5th or 6th round quarterback, to draft a quarterback. Otherwise, Bill will go with who he has, Stidham or someone or other. New England's short passing game and receiving core don't really need a dynamic quarterback, but one sure wouldn't hurt. That's kind of where we're at. Thank you, Mark, for the question. We figure that Bill's just kind of going to roll with young guys and draft picks, and he doesn't need. They're not going to go after. They're not going to try and trade up for anybody in the draft. They're going to try and get lightning in a bottle again. And hey, we'll find out now. We've seen him do it, with guys, that they draft and have had to plug in here and there. So I think they're more than capable of just drafting a guy. They're not a team that's going to go out and sign a guy to a free agent contract. It's just not going to happen.
No, I mean, I prefer them to just roll with Stidham, honestly, at this point.
But even in the long run, like, say 2 years from now, they're not going to go out and give, hey, Russell Wilson's a free agent. Like, that. I don't think with Belichick, they're ever going to be a team that goes out and brings a guy in from the outside for big money. I don't think it'll ever happen.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's just going to roll with the young guys. Now, if they really somehow just stink this year and maybe go after a guy like, Lawrence, but I don't know. I just see them going with the young guy route and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Kind of to transition here at the end, thank you everybody for the questions. We're doing the show live through Facebook for those who have kind of popped in and popped out, because me and Christian can't be together, can't be in the same place at the same time right now because of this the coronavirus outbreak, but still able to bring you the show, and we figured we might as well pump it out live while we're chatting on the phone with each other, and through the wonders of the internet we can give it to you live, and then you can go and check out the show later in podcast form. The 360 Sports Show is available on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, pretty much anywhere where you can get a podcast. You can hear the show. It's hosted up on SoundCloud, so go and subscribe there if you like. Also subscribe to us through Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show for all sorts of updates. We put up little fun things throughout the week there as well. A lot of our Photoshop work has been there. If you wanted to go check out how Tom Brady looks in a Bucs jersey, you can go and see it live. We can overlay it on right now. If you're watching live, there you go. Tom Brady in a Buccaneers jersey. We had also envisioned, Christian, I was playing around throughout the week, how long will Tom Brady stick around, and so we had a couple of some good people were using the Face app, the Russian app, to put beards and stuff on Tom Brady. The year is 2045, and the league is actively trying to ban Tom Brady because he refuses to retire. So all that sort of fun stuff is out there on the social medias, and we love to have your questions. To transition here at the end, we can't ignore what's going on in the outside world, and that it's every day, it's getting worse in places in Europe. It is getting better in Asia. I'll say that's encouraging that they're reporting fewer and fewer cases by the day, if any, of COVID-19, and they were a place that was, it looked pretty dire for them, and they were pretty late to react to things. And if they're doing better, there's hope, for places like Europe, who are doing really bad right now because their healthcare systems are overworked and overrun. I think it's good that the United States, people want us to just go to an immediate lockdown everything. I don't think that really does much good, because then you're trying to balance you can't put the whole country in lockdown. I think some states have gone there because they needed to, because that's just the stage they've reached. You're towing the line between healthcare and total economic collapse, I guess. So currently, we're both here in Rhode Island. We're not under lockdown yet. Our governor said she doesn't want to do it because it doesn't seem necessary yet. I just think for anybody listening, whoever listens to this, I think, Christian, you're on the same page with me. Everybody just has to be smart. I mean, the whole, everybody by now, if you've been on social media, you've seen the flatten the curve. That's the buzzword, buzzwords. And it's true. I mean, I am assuming you're feeling great. I feel great. We're not doing the show together because it's just not smart to do right now. There's plenty of people who are infected but asymptomatic, and it's not worth the spread to others, to at-risk people. And the best way we can mitigate this, and maybe if everybody just went about their business like normal, and restaurants didn't close and bars stayed open, we could all have fun, but then we'd have 300 million, the whole country would be infected, and Lord knows what that would look like. Are we gonna have to suck it up and stay in our homes and hang with your significant other for a prolonged period of time? Oh no. And not get together with our friends in person for a little while? Yeah, maybe for a month or 2 months while this thing slowly weeds its way out, as opposed to spiking and we just have to completely, bend over to it. Everybody just be smart. I mean, I think anybody that's trying to ignore this right now, or thinks that it can't happen to me, or I don't care, I'm young, blah, 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 is just so reckless and so immature and tone deaf.
Yeah, 100% agree, and that's the main problem right now. You see, I still see these beaches flooded with people in Florida, and I'm just thinking to myself, I just, even if you feel fine, right? Just don't be stupid. That to me is stupid. Going into a large area with a ton of people is just asking to get not only you, which if you're younger, this myth that it's like, oh, if you're younger, you're not going to get it, or when you do get it, you'll be perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. If someone likes feeling like, if you've ever had the flu, supposedly it's worse than that in terms of respiratory, where you can't breathe that well and you're coughing all the time. Who wants to get that, number one? And number two, it's not about you. You might be fine. It's about the people around you. The 60-year-old guy that has a condition that, he'll live 30 more years, but if he gets this virus, that's it. It's just, you got to be smart. And I know a lot of people are just, it's kind of like one of those things that's just been memed over and over again. But it's you just got to take it seriously. I mean, there's a reason these places are locking down. Just look at Italy. Italy is going through one of the, they have the highest death rate yet. And it's they have, obviously, there's multiple factors for that. Older communities, smoking, pre-existing conditions. But it's just one of those things that it shouldn't need to be said that you just need to be smart. Because if you want to be,
if you're young and you get sick, if it was not a pandemic, if it became serious for you, you go to the hospital, you'll be fine. If everybody is sick, there's not enough beds, there's not enough supplies.
Yes.
You can't, if you have a serious case, you don't know if you'd be able to get enough help or enough attention, or the doctors themselves are sick. That's where young people, don't get it. Is it's I'm not going to get it serious, or if I get serious, I'll just go to the hospital. Well, yeah, dummy, you and 300 million other people, that math doesn't work.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things that is still not taken seriously enough, and we're headed for a country lockdown. That's what we're headed for right now, because it's just everyone's reckless, it seems. Not everyone, but a lot of people are just super reckless about this whole thing from the beginning, and that's the way it's heading. So who knows at this point? We'll see if numbers come down. They obviously have come down in Asia, and which is a positive thing. Don't get me wrong, but that doesn't, unfortunately, if their numbers are down, that doesn't mean our numbers are down. It's just growing here. So
no, the epicenter has just changed. It's now in Europe. Hopefully, America is able to weather the storm and not become an epicenter, because I think it would be way worse here if it did. And just because Aaron comments on the stream, truth #stay home. That doesn't mean you can't have fun. That it just means that you're not going to get together with your friends and have drinks in your house or over their house, and it doesn't mean you can't go outside. I have gone for walks every single day. I'm not going to congregate with a group of people. Me and my girlfriend, we go for nice, long walks. We've gone to the beach, but you're not going to sit packed in like you would in the summertime. You're going to go and you're going to stay away for the most part from people. And it's not out of I guess it's a little bit out of fear, but it's just about being smart and staying away. We're still, right now you can still prepare and go out and get your own food. You can get takeout from stuff. Some places even now you have takeout beer and wine, which I think is the ultimate in alcoholism. If you're ordering. Can I have a 6-pack of Bud Light to go?
It's more to help the restaurants.
It's totally to help the restaurants, but it just seems like the most alcoholic thing ever.
But can I get those old plastic Chili's to-go cups that you'd get as a kid? It's just like, can I get that full of just wine, please?
Yeah. So there's you can still get some food out. We're preparing we're all going to become great chefs, I think. Because we've all been cooking our own food for the most part. That's what I've been doing. That's what a lot of my friends have been doing, and have fun with it. Live stream your attempt to try and make a quiche and see how horribly it goes. Everybody's becoming experts on live streaming too. There's ways to be social while social distancing. Christian, I don't know, what you guys have been doing, but like last night, I figured out a way. We used Twitch to live stream my PlayStation 4. We booted up some Jackbox games. I got a whole bunch of friends on a group call through Facebook, so we could all talk to each other and hear each other. And the way Jackbox games works is you just got to sign in with your phone. You use your phone as like a controller, and we had 10 people, all in different places, all in different rooms, all on one Facebook call, playing a game together. We have the technology to be able to be socially distant yet still social. And I think those are the things, necessity is the mother of all invention. We're figuring out ways to do this. Hopefully we all come out of this and can go back to being social people and being in person to person with each other. But for now, we have to embrace all these avenues. We can still have fun. We can still enjoy each other's company. I haven't even gone over to my parents' house in 2 weeks because I don't want to risk potentially getting them sick, and does that hurt? Yeah. I want to go over and give my mother a hug and a kiss and, dap up my dad because we have a whole little routine, when we get together and talk about sports and all sorts of other things. Can't. Now, yesterday he rode by on his bike and he sat on the wall outside, near my apartment, and we sat like 10 feet from each other and chatted. That was great. It's doable. We will get through this. We will survive, but everybody just has to get on board. You know?
I mean, that's really what it is. Everybody has to get on the same page here and just take the thing seriously. We'll get through it, and you can go back to living your normal lives. You're taking a short-term hit here. It's not it's not that bad. I'm sorry you can't go to your frat party and get hammered. Take a break for a month here, and we'll be through it. But instead, it's like, let's just get a bunch of people together because we have to be together but apart. So let's just get pack a bunch of people into a room. You got to be smart.
It's not a snow day.
It'll end. It's just a matter of time before eventually it ends. But it's just what are the repercussions because of people not getting on board here and taking it seriously.
Yeah, I've seen the meme circulated that you're telling me we just have to stay home, watch TV, and not get out of bed to save the world? Let's not screw this up. Literally, the orders are do nothing.
It's just like, my grandparents, our grandparents, they were asked to go into World War II. We're being asked to stay at home. Like, I've been practicing for this moment for my entire life. Now that it's here, people don't want to get on board. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. So, what have you guys been doing at home? Here, like, we kind of have developed our little routine. We each are doing our work. Everybody's working from home. Those who can. So we have work. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then go for a walk, and then at night, watch TV, try and get some friends online to do stuff. What have you guys been doing at home? I know you had to go through a move, so I'm sure there's still a lot of unpacking that has to be done. But
yeah, we're kind of taking our time with that at this point. So we're like leisurely packing, and then we'll catching up on movies and shows, which is kind of nice, and playing at least a group of my friends play some video games, so we're doing that as well. And it's just just chill. Like, honestly, it's fine for me, because it's just we're gonna eat as normal. We're gonna go for a walk. We'll watch a movie. And that'll be like, it's not that difficult to me, but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what we've been doing. We get friends online. That's just the way it is, and not that difficult, because that's the way times are now anyway, right? So now all of a sudden, everybody's taking to social media to talk to people, and then as soon as someone tells them not to do that, they want to get in a group of people. I don't know. For me, it's pretty easy. We get into our normal routine of eating. We'll go for a walk. Go to the grocery store once a week, stock up on some food, and watch movies, TV, games, board games, whatever you got. And it's just kind of, it's not super warm out, but it's nice enough to take a walk at least. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. It's just walking and getting some fresh air, but not going into large groups of people.
It's funny how 3 months ago, you wouldn't have had to tell people people like there's people joke about not going to parties and staying in all night and not wanting to go out. The minute you tell people don't go out, it's like, well, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, right. It just makes no sense. But hey, it is what it is. I guess we'll see what happens here. It'll be interesting to see where we are from like a few weeks from now if everybody gets on board.
Yeah. So obviously, for those listening live right now, and those who will listen to this as a podcast, we want to talk sports here. We want your sports questions. But right now, while we're all going through this coronavirus thing together, send us your thoughts on that. What you guys are doing to be socially distant, or how you're handling things. We want the listeners to be a part. Send us anything. We like TV show suggestions. Those are always welcome. Any cool creative ideas you guys have had during this. Like I said, It worked out great last night. If you have somebody who has the ability to, say, live stream group type video games, those party type games, and get everybody to play along. Like we said, it was the most social we've been while being socially distant in the past 2 weeks. So love hearing those types of stories. If you want to contribute anything to the show, we welcome it. Email the show, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. Hit us up through Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. And yeah, we'll read it on the show. We want everybody to come here. This can be our meeting place, is on the 360 Sports Show. So we're here to serve. Christian, if you don't have anything else, I think we may be wrapping up the show. What does the week ahead look for you? Do you still have to go into work?
As of right now, yes.
Oh, that is unfortunate. So you can't actually just stay home in your pajamas and work.
Not at this time. We're gonna see here. I might try to negotiate something, but
you might have a cough.
Yeah. No, I can't do that. But
I feel like all of a sudden everybody's superstitious. People make up lies that they're sick all the time to not do stuff. But right now, it's like, I don't feel like that's the right thing to do. I should do that because I'm going to jinx myself.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. So I'm just going to stand pat and see what happens.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody who tuned in live. This podcast will be up later on tonight on SoundCloud, so go and subscribe to us there. So if you missed the show or missed it in its entirety, you can go and listen to the whole thing there. Thank you for those who sent us questions, for those who tuned in live, and we will catch you guys next week. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you later.